Welcome back to another episode of RecTalk, UK's #1 recruitment podcast by a variety of different metrics. Just check them out. I'm your host, Nitin Sharma, founder of RecTools.io. RecTools, as you all know by now, is the only whole-of-market directory of recruitment suppliers into your recruitment business. And that's your obvious stuff, like your CRMs and your website developers and your marketeers, and you're looking for timesheet software, you're looking for a new payroll company. But we also have a whole range of consultancies and specialists that can come in and do some L&D training with you, or maybe they can come in and do some coaching with your team around motivation. Maybe they can come and talk to you about breathing techniques and breath work. We had a hypnotherapist on the last episode. There's a whole range of things that are on there. It's free to access. So if you're a recruitment business owner or a talent acquisition leader and you're looking to find out how you can level up what you guys are doing at the minute, head over to RecTools.io. It's free from me to you guys. My guest today, I want to welcome, first of all, he's literally got off a plane yesterday from Colombia after spending a week out there. So a little bit jet lagged, but excited on this one to have this conversation. Is Dan Martin from The Dan Martin. You're known from LinkedIn from a range of sort of motivational coaching that he does. Dan, first of all, mate, thank you so much for being here. Especially we've had this booked in for nearly a month now, haven't we? We're looking forward to this one. So the episode that we want to go through today is a burning topic in the industry, right? Most specifically, why are the current crop of recruiters so lazy? And I say that tongue in cheek. I don't believe that, right? And I think that lies hand in hand with motivation. So, look, I'm going to throw the ball over to you, introduce yourself, and let's start unpicking this because there's a lot to go through.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'd probably be helpful for the audience to understand how I arrived at working within the area of motivation, because it's been a bit of a journey for me to get here. So the reason I was really interested in jumping on this podcast is because recruitment is a big part of my backstory. It's pretty much where I started in the world of sales, as many people do, kind of fall into sales accidentally, largely driven by ego and the desire to earn cash. Mm-hmm. And I did that, started off working in a leaflet distribution company where I was literally knocking on doors and getting told to fuck off over and over again, built that classic thick skin that we hear so much about in the recruitment world. Ended up in recruitment, started off selling or placing domestic gas engineers, and then from there went into technical engineering, and then went into financial services where I was selling back into the recruitment industry through an umbrella company. Okay. So I understand the world as a consultant, as a team leader, and then looking in from a slightly different perspective. Yeah, that's right. And after I was done in financial services, I moved into software sales because I kind of felt like my shelf life in recruitment had come to an end, which is quite on brand with what we're going to be talking about today insofar as people leaving the industry, what have you. And then that small thing called COVID happened in 2019, 2020. And what that experience gave me was an opportunity to just press pause on my life and look at where I was going and what I was doing for a slightly objective lens, as opposed to being trapped on autopilot, which I certainly was, and many other people were as well. And what I recognized I was doing in the world of sales, which is incredibly fast-paced and intense and exhilarating, is using a lot of drugs and drinking a lot of alcohol. Mm-hmm. And I just had accepted that it was kind of part of the culture. It's just something that people do. But in fact, what I recognized having that space in the furlough period to actually understand who I was and where I was going is that it wasn't fun. The fun had well and truly gone from the party lifestyle, and I was in fact actually running away from what was true internally within me. And that was really a lot of pain and a lot of trauma and a lot of unprocessed emotion that I'd been bottling up for many, many, many years. So over that furlough period, it was really difficult because it meant coming to the realization that I was actually just depressed, and I was in denial about that. So I went on a real journey of self-discovery, and that led me to finding a therapist to work with. That proved to be so beneficial for me in healing my internal world that I recognized I wanted to follow in the footsteps of my therapist. So over the course of 2 years, I decided to retrain in cognitive hypnotherapy and NLP. And then when we had the return to work period, a friend of mine had qualified as a therapist the year before, and he built his business up over the period of lockdown as well, where a lot of the jobs that we knew to be face-to-face were forced to go online.
Mm-hmm.
And he found himself a niche within personal training. So personal training, historically, you're face-to-face with the PT shouting at you, telling you to do more. But that all went online, right? And he found that area to be a great place to plug in therapy and coaching, because coaches are generally already very self-motivated. They already want to get better. So it's a great place to offer performance coaching.
Yeah.
He scaled his coaching book up to max capacity. He said, Dan, I'm at capacity here. I really need to hire a coach. Are you interested in coming on board with me? And that was a beautiful bridge to get out of the corporate world and start finding my feet as a coach.
I'm with you, yeah.
So I worked with him for 2.5 years or so. And alongside that, I also launched my own addiction therapy and coaching business, because as I just explained, that was a big part of my life. And I felt like that was my real burning purpose and mission. So doing those two things alongside one another. And the reason I'm explaining that backstory now is because those experiences have led me to this natural point of convergence where I've kind of come back around full circle, and I'm now back in the recruitment space, because
you thought you'd hit the ceiling or it was time to go.
Yeah, that's right. Because I was like, no, fuck recruitment. I'm done with it. I don't want to go back to it. But in a roundabout way, I've ended up back here through following my purpose, my internal motivation, because the individuals who I was working with within my friend's business, performance coaching, are remarkably similar in terms of their psychological profile to recruiters. Online entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, let's zoom out and just look at the mindset of that type of person. They're very self-motivated. They're very driven by growth. They want to get people who they're working with results, whether it's an online coach who's trying to get results for their fitness client, or it's a recruitment consultant who wants to get their candidates placed. Yeah. The profile is very, very similar.
The model stacks up, doesn't it?
Yeah. They're very, very similar. And the problems that are experienced in that space are very similar as well. Imposter syndrome, I don't deserve this. Comparison syndrome. In recruitment, you've got a literal leaderboard where you're compared against your colleagues going, oh, am I as good as them? They look like they're better than me. Why shouldn't I? Why aren't I able to get to the highest place on the leaderboard? It's all very similar, right? And then the other link to recruitment was that over the 2.5-year period that I was running my addiction business, 90% of the people who applied to work with me were in recruitment. Which, is that a surprise?
Yeah. It's either an incredibly weird coincidence or there's a pattern there.
Yeah, absolutely. And over the last 18 months or so, what I noticed was that the majority of people who were applying to work with me, whether it was to do with addiction or more general kind of life coaching, I don't really like that phrase, but that is really what we were doing. They were at a more senior level within recruitment. And I always thought that addiction was the only thing for me to work on, insofar as once you resolve the addiction, the work is done. But what I learned to be true is that resolving addiction is the entry point. Because once you're done with that, that is when you're now in a connected place within yourself, and you can look at your life through a more informed lens. And the people who I were working with in those senior positions of recruitment businesses, once they'd got rid of their addictions, which were usually alcohol, cocaine, or nicotine, or something like that, once that was done, they could look at their work life and go, I'm not really enjoying what I'm doing at work here.
Because the addiction is, in theory, it's not the problem, it's the manifestation of the problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The issue lies somewhere else, then the release of that comes out in the form of addiction to something, as an for some people.
Yeah.
And therefore, just stopping you being reliant on drugs and alcohol and nicotine, well, that's not solving the problem, because all you're going to then do is the fundamental issue is still there.
Yeah.
And that will either grow again and either throw you back off the wagon, or you'll find something else to throw yourself into to kind of, and that addiction, not addiction, but sorry, that issue will manifest itself as something else.
That's correct. Yeah. We have a real issue in societies nowadays where we typically ask why the addiction, and that's wrong. We need to be asking why the pain.
Yeah.
Because the pain is what fuels the addiction. And within any form of addictive behavior, there will be three core components. One is past issues. What parts of your past history are you not acknowledging or ignoring through fear of what the repercussions of feeling that pain might be? The second part is present day behavior and circumstance. So this is where work comes into the conversation. A lot of people who struggle with addictive behaviors, they're not fulfilled. They're not happy in what they're doing. They're just going through the motions and earning a paycheck at the end of the month through pressure to pay bills, put food on the table for the family, or maybe just fuel an ego that they've got through insecurity, which then goes back into the past.
Yeah.
And then the third point is future. Where are you going? A lot of people who are struggling with addiction don't have any idea where they want to go with their life. So it's much easier to just sit in immediate short-term gratification by way of getting fucked up than it is to ask, where am I going?
Yeah.
What kind of life do I want to create for myself? They're the conditions that create addictions. So I think for the purpose of today's conversation, I'll focus just on the present and the future, because that's going to feed back into what we're talking about here. But coming back to what I was saying about the leaders that I was working with, a lot of them were in that spot where they were just going through the motions. They were following the standard kind of rule book of, scale a business with no real underlying intent as to why they were doing that. And what they found was that they felt quite disconnected from their business, and by way of them being disconnected. Because it was copy and paste
from those who came before them, and that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
Same with why KPIs haven't changed very much in the last 20 years.
Yeah,
it's interesting. I think they termed it sort of the Millennial awakening. Right?
Yeah,
in during that COVID time where people were kind of like, I'm not happy.
Yeah,
like I did all the things I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then this is from personal experience. I did get a job at 16, earn a bit of money, learn to drive, get my first car, met my high school sweetheart, went to university, bought a house, got a good job, bought a better car, and married my high school sweetheart, and then had children with my high school sweetheart. Then I left the job that I was doing to go and work for myself, and it's sort of almost like I ticked all those boxes that you're supposed to do to be like, oh, he's a success. I invested in a property, I invested in a second property, I had savings in the bank, and my children didn't want for anything, and everything was great, but I'm still sat there like, I'm fucking miserable, man. I hate this.
Yeah,
like, this isn't what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
This is not what I want to be doing. What the fuck's going on? Like this is and you start to resent that business.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's sort of I personally, me and my business partner, we started this business and really had no vision for kind of what it was going to be. Short of we wanted it to essentially be a carbon copy of Michael Page where we worked before.
Yeah.
And every small decision that we made was almost like to make it a micro Michael Page, and it was sort of like, this is so dumb.
Yeah.
Like, if that's what we wanted, we can just go back and work for them.
Yeah.
Why the sleepless nights? Why the stress and the pressures of invoicing and chasing and this, that, and the other?
Yeah.
And you're right, you do. Then you start looking for kind of outlet.
Yeah.
Right. Fortunately for me, I've never had an issue with drugs and alcohol. I don't think so. Yeah. Right. I'm sure my wife would disagree. Right. But for others, they'll throw themselves into reckless spending. And others will throw themselves into gambling, and there's a whole range of different things that people will go to release to.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. The sort of the underlying factor is that there's something missing for people, and employers, and certainly recruitment business owners. We're talking about recruitment businesses. We need to wake up and accept the fact that those things that used to tickle us and motivate us, chasing that bag. Or you hit this and you'll get this much in commission and that kind of thing, don't mean fuck all to this current crop.
No,
this current lazy crop that you don't want, that you can't understand why they're not motivated by the same things. Just take a look at the social economic environment that we're in, the political climate that we're in. Take a look at what they've been through, what they've grown up through. And then maybe you'll understand why they don't give a shit about buying that 4-bedroom detached house. For £500,000.
Yeah, that's right. And it's so evident, yet unacknowledged in pretty much every recruitment business, because what you see over and over again is that there's an enormous gap between the high performers and everybody else, right? Every business has this. Whenever they've got a sales team, whether we're talking about sales as a entity,
and the high performers have to carry the bag. They have to carry the buck for everybody.
Yeah,
you know, everybody's thresholds are X, Y. Well, because most people don't bill, and therefore the ones that do bill have to, you know, that person's billing will carry their salary and 3 others, and half the office costs. Great.
Yeah,
I need to keep that person motivated, and that's what tends to happen.
Yeah.
They throw all their energy and efforts into keeping that top performer a top performer, rather than going, let me invest my time in these underperformers and see how I can get them to, you know, double or triple their output at the moment.
Absolutely. And the people who are generally high performers in recruitment are in that position because they are the stereotypical mold of high-performing recruiter insofar as they're driven by money. They're driven by extrinsic rewards. And this is a common playbook, right? I can remember going back to when I was in interviews for recruitment businesses. The question is, are you motivated by money? If not, this is not the place for you, which is so shallow and lacks enormous amount of depth. And that ideology of focusing on money as the sole driver of success is literally fueling the retention problem that we have right now, because people who are motivated exclusively by money are generally not very loyal, right? If they're performing really well, they're earning loads of good money, there will come a point where they acclimatize to their earnings and naturally want more. And what are they going to do if their employer, which they're working for at that point in time, can't give them more? They're going to fuck off. They're going to leave.
The thing is that the whole motivated by money thing is a bullshit answer as well. Unless you're Scrooge McDuck and you're motivated by money because you've got a room full of little coins that you like to have a little shower in every now and then, you're not motivated by money. Money is the vehicle. Money is the vehicle that allows you to do the thing that you're motivated by.
Yes.
So what are you motivated by?
Yes.
Right? But we hear, I'm motivated by money and think, yes, this guy gets it, or this girl gets it. She's a salesperson.
Yeah.
I need this person. Whereas you've got somebody else who sits there and is like, I'm motivated by social purpose.
Yeah.
I'm motivated by, you know, what impact are we making?
Yeah.
I want to know how many people you put into a job last year that you're still in touch with.
Yeah.
I want to know how many careers you've changed. I want to know how many new nurses you've brought into the NHS to help with that issue. Yeah. I want to know, you know, actual, you know, social impact of what you do as a recruitment agency. Because it's all well and good saying you're not a job centre and you can't find everyone a job. I accept that.
Yeah.
But the things that you do actually do, is that for the sole purpose of driving revenue?
Yeah.
Or do you have embedded relationships with your clients?
Yeah.
Do they ring you before the vacancy goes live?
Yeah.
You know, because that's what the environment I want to work in. I don't want to work for a business that's just like, don't care, invoice. I don't care, invoice.
Yeah.
Send as many CVs out as you can. Don't bother calling them, just send the CV.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that whole kind of the two parts for me that always I find alarming, and I did a bit of work with a sizable recruitment agency recently on this, and I was sort of like, you've got to stop asking if people are motivated by money, or you've got to stop being happy when they say I'm motivated by money, because that's just the top level answer. Mm-hmm. That don't mean fuck all.
Yeah.
What are they motivated by? Why is money important to this person?
Yeah.
This person might have never had and come up and grow up in poverty. This person might have incredible amounts of personal debt.
Yeah.
They're two different people.
Yeah.
They might be motivated by the same thing.
Yeah.
But they're two different people.
That's right. Yeah.
And they're going to spend their money in two very different ways.
Yeah.
Somebody else might say, I'm motivated by money because I really, really like to buy Dragon Ball Z action figures.
Yeah.
And they're expensive.
Yeah.
Well, that's a different fucking reason to be motivated by money than somebody who's in 40 grand worth of debt that wants to clear that off. To somebody who's like, my mum and dad don't work anymore and I pay all the bills. That's why I'm motivated by money. Yeah. Those are three very different people. Yeah. And you're categorizing them as suitable for recruitment because they said, oh, I'm motivated by money. But the ones that didn't say that and asked and questioned your business's vision, mission statement, value, purpose, they're not right for recruitment. Yeah. And then you sit there and go, why are 7 out of 10 new recruits leaving? Yeah. Something's wrong with our industry. Yeah, you. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, yes, you're wrong with the industry.
That's right.
Because you keep hiring people that are giving you surface level, kind of not very deep answers and expecting them to be deep and meaningful.
Yeah.
Expecting them to care about your business and care about the performance.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we need utility behind the thing. The thing in this case is money, right? And there's a story which I'll share here, which hopefully will give some light to this point. Over the lockdown period, there was a radiology team in America who were having to work remotely because the whole world was working from home at this point, right? So patients would come into the hospital, they would go through a radiology assessment, and then a scan would be sent out to the radiologists at their home location. And the lead radiologist at the hospital wanted to run an experiment to understand whether having utility, having a connection to the patient made a difference to the amount of work that people did, right? Okay. So what they did was they sent equal amount of scans out to half of the team with no image or name of the patient, and the other half to the other half of the team with an image and the name of the patient. And what they found was that the team who received the name and the image of the patients invested 25% more energy into their work because they could see the value in it, right? They could connect to it in a way that the others could not.
Yeah.
What does this mean for recruitment and motivation by way of money? Well, there's nothing inherently wrong with being motivated by money, but from a leadership perspective, you need to understand what that money will help that person obtain, what it will help them achieve. Yeah. And this is where we come into the conversation around purpose. So I believe that there are 3 core components to harnessing incredible amounts of motivation within people. One of them is purpose, which I'll unpack all of these one by one. The second one is autonomy, and the third one is mastery. So let's break them down. We've already started speaking about purpose here, so let's get involved in that. So purpose is an incredibly broad and ambiguous topic to get involved in, and a lot of employers struggle with it because it's not tangible. There are very few strategies around purpose, so employers don't. It does, so employers don't really want to go near it. But again, another story. I like telling stories because it helps bring life to things. I think it was in the 1970s when we put man on the moon, right? And John F. Kennedy was taking a tour of NASA when they were still building the rocket. And he was walking around the facility getting to know people, and he spotted a janitor who was sweeping up the floor. And Kennedy went over to the janitor and said, "So what's your role here?" And the janitor looked at him and said, "I'm here to put a man on the moon."
Yeah.
Nothing to do with sweeping up the floor. Yeah. Purpose. He is very much, or she, if it was a woman, they're very much a part of the overarching mission of what NASA is there to achieve, right? There's so much power in that because there's a real emotional, psychological, maybe even spiritual, if you're that way inclined, investment in that business and where they want to go. There's so much engagement that comes from that. And this is completely overlooked in the recruitment space, but what a gift it is to work for an organization where you're genuinely changing people's lives by placing them in their role. Yeah. Like, we spend more time at work than we do anywhere else. Yeah. But this is completely overlooked by way of money. It's like, it's so bizarre.
And this is the point, because again, from I've been saying for the last couple of years now, recruitment is no longer a sales job. And if you continue to treat it as a sales business, your time's limited. Like, your time is very limited, and they're the ones that seem to be struggling the most at the minute. Scrambling for what to do. Those businesses that are treating their recruitment agencies as consultancies, or or are heavily investing in marketing and how they position themselves, or putting on events and looking at value as the key driver for kind of success. They're the ones that are doing incredibly well. But you're absolutely right. It's that simple stuff to go, all right, let's just people are going to pay you for a service. That happens, right? Because if you're saying recruitment is a sales business, well, then so is fucking McDonald's. Because you go into McDonald's and you buy a cheeseburger and you pay whatever price they tell you to. And occasionally they'll flash do you want a drink with that? Oh, they've sold to you there. And McDonald's is not a fast food restaurant. McDonald's is a sales business. Tesco's is not a grocery store or a supermarket. It's a sales business. Yeah. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, just take that mentality out for a second and then look at it objectively and go, people are going to pay us to provide a service. That's fine. So what service is it that you're providing? Yeah. Like you said, people spend most of their waking day at work. Yeah. We take people who are unhappy, unappreciated, or feel as though they've hit a ceiling in what they do. Yeah. And we provide them and find them and seek out opportunities for them to go and be their full potential. That's what we do. Yeah. If you position that to a Gen Z, I want to be part of that. That sounds amazing. Yeah. This recruitment consultant malark sounds really interesting. because that's what they're looking for. In the same way that we had this millennial awakening during 2020, 2021, this generation of people, the younger millennials and the Gen Z that are out there in the workforce now, had a very similar awakening, but not to the same extent that we had. Their awakening was, this planet's going to part. The wealth gap between the wealthy and the poor is incredibly wide. This should not be a left versus right world anymore. This should be an up versus down world. You know, I've got more in common with my neighbour who's, you know, politically right-winged and I'm left-winged than I have with Elon Musk, right? So why am I listening to this? They switched off from, you know, watching the media and the news. They don't do that anymore. They're on their devices all the time. They have embraced that globalized world. That you speak to most Gen Z and younger millennials, they have friends, not acquaintances, not people they know. They have friends all over the world. They will, and there'll be people that have maybe never met, or maybe met once or twice in their life, but they consider these people friends. So they've fully embraced this new way of living. And we, as older millennials and sort of Gen Xers that are in these positions of leadership, can't seem to understand it. And therefore, we can't motivate these people. And therefore, by being unable to motivate them, we immediately go to, they're not motivated by money, they're lazy, they don't want to pick up the phone, you know, and all the things that we did, they don't want to do. Of course they don't.
Yeah.
Largely because they don't need to anymore, but more to the point, because they don't buy into what you bought into.
That's right.
The Kool-Aid that we drank, they don't want it.
Yeah.
Accept it.
That's right.
But people don't want to, and then we sit there and we see the churn level in the industry at 70% of new recruits leave the sector within 12 months. What a shame! What a fucking shame!
Absolutely, yeah.
Recruitment's a great job.
Yeah, it is.
Recruitment's a fantastic job, and we wouldn't be doing what we do now and be sat where we are now without starting and cutting our teeth in recruitment.
That's right.
And there's a lot of people missing out on opportunity to find what they really are good at and what their actual calling is in life.
Yeah,
because we're scaring them away by setting our businesses up in such a way that they're just not interested and engaged by it anymore.
That's right. Yeah.
So
we're missing a trick massively. So purpose is an incredibly big part of motivating people. And, you know, you look at some of the most successful companies in the world, Facebook, Meta, Mark Zuckerberg's famously known for communicating the mission statement before every meeting that they had. Like, our mission in this business is to connect the world. Really simple. But look at them now. Yeah. Look at them now. So we'll try and be as practical as I can.
It doesn't need to be an overcomplicated mission, does it?
No, it doesn't.
But it needs to be a mission.
It's just something that pulls people together and creates alignment. So for leaders listening back to this, I challenge you to stop asking whether people are motivated by money and just ask what motivates them. Yeah. What motivates them to do this work? And then you go back into like sales strategy training here. We all know about getting to the third level of why. Once somebody gives you an answer, you go, why is that important to you?
Why? Because.
Why? Because. And then you're getting deeper and deeper and deeper into their individual purpose. And instead of just looking at a monetary value, which is basically benign, you understand what drives that individual. And then you can ascertain, okay, well, is their intrinsic motivation in alignment with the corporate motivation? If yes, you're onto a winner. So that's the first part. The second part is mastery. This is probably my favorite topic to get into here, particularly within the area of recruitment, because by definition, people who go into recruitment are motivated to get better in some way, shape or form. If not, recruitment ain't for them, because it's not easy. It's a tough gig, and you have to have that intrinsic level of wanting to get better at something in order to be there.
There's need to self-improve.
100%. Yeah. And humans have an innate desire to get better.
Yeah.
Whether they are extremely self-motivated or not very motivated at all, we have to, because if we weren't motivated to get better, then we'd all remain pre-verbal. You know, we wouldn't learn how to walk, we wouldn't learn how to speak, we wouldn't learn how to communicate. Like,
no, you're right. Yeah, it's ingrained in our DNA. Even those who are like, you know, just not motivated by anything and completely, even they. Yeah, absolutely. Move ahead in some way, shape,
we have to.
Like, it's marginal gains, whatever you want
correct,
to call them.
We literally have to get better. And as an employer, as a leader of a business, it is your responsibility to tap into that within your employees and help them understand what they want to get better at. So really simple reframe here. Again, going back to like interview questions. Where do you want to be in 3 years? Where do you want to be in 5 years? Stop asking that. That's not a relevant question.
Yeah.
Instead, what do you want to get better at over the next 3 years? How do you want to improve? You might get, I want to get better at my communication. I want to get better at closing. I want to get better at whatever.
Give me specifics.
It gives so much more utility.
It's such a self-serving question, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I had this conversation very early on. In fact, it was in one of the first interviews that we conducted in my recruitment business. And my business partner asked that, where do you see yourself in 3 years' time? And the person answered and blah, blah, blah. And then we were like, okay, cool. Give him an exercise to do. Went outside. And I went, I don't think we should ask that question.
Yeah.
And he's like, why? It's like, because who in their right mind wants to work here in 3 years' time?
Yeah.
And he was like, well, no, look, you want commitment and stuff. And I was like, yeah, okay. I want commitment from staff, yes. But I don't want to lie to me.
Yeah.
I don't want liars.
Yeah.
You know, always tell the truth, or at least don't lie.
Yeah.
Right? And he was like, no, but like, you're missing the point. You're missing the point. And I was like, no, I'm not missing the point. You are. The reality is, you're asking them, where do you see yourself in 3 years' time? Is self-serving, because you want them to say, you want them to give you an answer that will tick a box that makes you, okay, this is the right person for me. But that answer that they give you actually makes them not a good candidate, because they're a liar. Because I don't even want to be working here in 3 years' time. You know, I was sort of like, look, we have an exit strategy for this business. I don't fucking want to be here in 3 years' time. This person knows nothing about our business. Why would they say, oh yeah, I want to be here in 3 years' time. I want to be a manager in 3 years' time. Well, you don't know how long it's going to take. We don't have a manager.
Yeah.
So we don't know whether we're going to need a manager. So I'm asking you to answer the impossible question.
Yeah.
Whereas actually what you're saying there is much better in that, all right, what do you want to achieve over the next year?
Yeah.
What do you want to improve on?
Yeah.
What can I help you with?
Yeah.
Because if this person's sitting there going like, do you know what, I'd really like to get more comfortable in front of video, and you know as a recruitment business, you guys don't do anything in front of video. You don't do it, you don't embrace it, you haven't bought into it. Well, that's not the right candidate for you. Yeah. Because you're bringing them in under false pretenses.
Yeah. That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
If that person sat there saying, ideally what I'd like to do in the next 12 to 18 months, I want to get to a point where my relationships are so ingrained with my clients that I don't really need to be cold calling all day long. I can just shoot out a text message to a handful of clients, send them an email, and I've got jobs to work, and I can focus on the candidate generation.
Yeah.
Now, if that is not how you want to run your recruitment business, well, that's not the right candidate for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but if the poor soul tells you, oh, I want to be a manager in 3 years' time, and you're going to go, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. Yeah. Welcome aboard. Well, guess what? That's one of the 7 out of 10 that's going to be gone in the next 12 months. Yeah. Because they're going to join and be like, this is shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't let me embrace the things that I want to do.
Yeah.
They don't even know what I'm good at. They don't even ask.
Yeah, that's right. And this is where we can break apart human doing versus human being. Like we forget that we are human beings, right? And we're stuck in a process of being constantly on all the time, particularly in an industry like recruitment, where we've got targets that are looming over our head. We've often got micromanagement, which is saying you have to achieve this, and it becomes all consuming, and we forget about the person who we are beneath the job role. And if that question is asked around what do you want to achieve, and the response that a leader gets is I want to become a manager, that's okay. Go deeper. Who do you need to become in order to be a manager? Yeah. What do you need to level up in?
Yeah. What does that look like?
Yeah. What does that look like? And how can we support you? Instead of being this selfish demigod figure as a leader, it's like, no, you have to be the perfect fit for us. In fact, meet that person where they're at and say, okay, if you want to become a manager, how can we help you?
That's the hardest thing. I think from where I'm sat and the people that I've spoken to and the podcasts that I've listened to and the stuff that's been out there on LinkedIn so far, that's the hardest part. Recruitment business owners who have got an ego like that, they're their own worst enemies. They're preventing the change. Yeah. Because they want everyone back in 5 days a week. Yeah. I want them all back in 5 days a week. Okay, cool. Why? Because you're sick and tired of having to do the dishes. Yeah. Because no one in your house respects you as the boss. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because you've got teenage daughters who just don't listen to you. Yeah. And you miss the days where you could walk around and tell someone off because their shoes weren't quite right. Yeah. Or their tie was too thin. Yeah. Right? Because when you talk about that kind of self-reflection piece where you get to press pause and go, right, okay, who am I and what am I doing? Yeah. Ask yourself, what do you actually want everyone back in the office? Yeah. Do you want everyone back in the office because it genuinely improves productivity? Or are you just a control freak? Yeah. right?
Yeah.
Start there.
Yeah.
And if the answer is, fuck, maybe I'm a control freak, well, then figure out why. Why are you a control freak?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Have you positioned the business in such a way that you're so leveraged in debt and you've got unserviceable amounts of debt, you've got, tech that's not being used that you've got to pay for every month, and you've put your business in a position where the only thing that you can think of now is to just get everyone back in the office so you can crack the whip and get people doing the things that they don't necessarily want to do, just to put invoices on and get fees on the board so that you can stay awake for another week. So your business can carry on for another month. Because you went and took out that stupidly big mortgage and that PCP car that you had no reason to buy. Do you know what I mean? Because it's that self-reflection piece where a lot of people struggle. It's to look at themselves and go, well, I'm being like this because actually I've put myself in this position and I don't know how. I can't work my way out of it, and I need them to work their way out of it for me.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of the guys I've spoken to and debated with about this whole return from work culture and back in the office culture and that kind of thing. Fundamentally, what it's come down to is exactly that. Yeah. Look, company's house don't lie. You can check people's accounts out. I know how much debt you've got, right? Yeah. I can see how much your profits have dropped, your turnover's dropped, and that isn't just down to the fact that your staff aren't in the office anymore.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's a perfect segue into the third pillar, which is autonomy. Mm-hmm. Which unfortunately is something which is massively lacking in recruitment, because what's the opposite of autonomy in the workspace? It's micromanagement.
Yep.
And as long as you're micromanaging people, they're not going to be motivated, because nobody wants that. Nobody wants someone breathing down their neck and to feel like they're not a trusted asset to that business.
Some people perform better under closer management. That's definitely true. And I think I'm a big believer in weaponizing language, right? And I think that certain things get weaponized to the point where they have an immediate negative connotation. And micromanagement is one of those things where I think there are times where micromanagement is needed. There are people who are maybe a bit maverick, or maybe, are not quite bought into the process and that kind of thing. And they do need somebody to just help them toe the line and just get to the finish line, right? But I will never accept that you need to run your entire business like that. Absolutely not.
No, that's right. That's right. And the antidote to what most people will know to be micromanagement is trust. And how do you form trust? As a leader, you step back and you create the right conditions for people to fail safely. Because when people feel like they can make mistakes and learn from them, they feel like they have a place within that organization. But a lot of people don't have that, unfortunately.
The counter argument, though, is that humans have this nature to kind of push the boundary or pull the rope as much as they can, right?
Yeah.
So examples that come to mind are the viral video from Twitter that basically riled Musk up to the point where he was like, right, no, get rid of half these people. Because Joe was trying to, she's like, come with me to work for the day. I've got to be in the office today. And she goes and she gets a latte, and then she goes and does a yoga thing, and then she goes and does a meditation thing, and then logs on for an hour's worth of work. Then she goes to the free buffet and gets some lunch. And then she goes back and gets another shake. And then she goes, and before the wind down, she goes to the little bar area. And, she's all in all, she spent 9 hours in the office, of which only an hour and a half actually working, and documented that as a, look how great my life is at Twitter, and then got sacked.
Yeah.
Right? And it's sort of like, people like that, people like the mouse clickers. I know of at least 4 people, 3 or 4 people, 4 people who have taken advantage of businesses, and friends of mine who own agencies and businesses that are fully remote and had 3 jobs concurrently at the same time. And then when they got called out for it, kind of gone, tough shit. It's just what it is, So there are people that take the piss out of it when you give them too much autonomy. And I think that's the problem, is mud sticks.
Yeah.
And if I'm a recruitment business owner and I've had 2 people out of 10 take the piss out of me, I'm not going to leave myself open for another slap in the face.
Yeah.
So how do you overcome that as a leader?
Yeah. Comes back to that same point around motivated by money, right? If you're bringing people into a business who are solely motivated by money and nothing else, guess what? There's no loyalty there.
Yeah.
Because all they want is cash, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It always comes back to that same place where actually we're not understanding enough about that human being to understand whether they're going to be able to be in a position where we can trust them.
This culture, yeah.
It always comes back to that place.
Who's going to hang themselves,
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And
I like that.
trust is like it's like a bank account. It's not something that is immediately available for the most part. Like there are some people who I've met in my life and I immediately trust them. You're one of them. I don't know what it is about you. I get a really good feel for you.
I'm that person though, because if funnily enough, I said this on the Talent Matters podcast with Dave Jenkins, because we were talking about trust, and I was in business with a business partner who was like, no, trust is earned. I have zero trust in you, and so on and so forth. And my angle has always been, I trust everybody. If I'm interacting with you, I trust you because I've got no reason not to.
Yeah.
Now, if you break that trust, look,
Yeah.
you're welcome to eat, just not at my table.
Yeah.
I don't want anything to do with you.
Yeah.
But I shouldn't be approaching every interaction with this level of like, can I trust you? It's look, trust is there for you to break it. If you break it, then that's me done. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
But I don't need you to earn. Who am I to ask you to earn my trust?
Bingo. That's right.
That's ego.
Yeah, it is.
For me, that's ego, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, you've got to earn my trust. Who the fuck are you?
Yeah, it is ego.
Trust. You know what I mean?
It is ego, and in a corporate container where the culture is created largely by leadership. If you've got an over-controlling leader who doesn't give any trust or autonomy to an employee, this is interesting because it's where I can look back to the work that I've done with people on a one-to-one level as a coach and a therapist and see that actually a lot of those behaviors which leaders exhibit and project onto their employees are actually all about their own internal bullshit that they're carrying around with them,
or
right?
their own trauma. Something's happened where they've had their trust broken.
That's it. Yeah. And they project it onto somebody else. So it often comes back from like school, from relationships with parents, where parents were very, very controlling and they're made to feel like they couldn't do anything. So that just becomes their normal. So then they bring that into the culture that's created within an organization and wonder why people are incredibly disengaged. It's got to come from an internal place within that leader to ask themselves, where is this culture coming from? How am I creating it? Drop all of the bullshit, let go of the ego, and just have an honest conversation with yourself about where this is coming from.
This happens a lot in business, right? But I've seen it more prevalent in recruitment. And I've made this point kind of in other ways. And I'm going to ask you a really straight question here. Why do you think in business, specifically recruitment, why do you think in business we don't account for humanity? And what I mean by that is we expect people to leave their shit at the door. It's really sad that your husband left you, but get on the phones.
Yeah.
Right? We expect people to look, I know your uncle's died, but were you really that close with him? Do you really need 2 days bereavement leave?
Yeah.
Right? We expect clients to pick up their phone. We're in the business world now. No. All right, do you answer your phone at home? Or when you're at work and your personal phone rings, do you answer it? No. Okay. If your staff, your recruiters there, they've all got mobile phones with them, where most of them have either been told to put it in their handbags or in their drawers, or, but if somebody starts ringing them tomorrow, it's their energy provider. Really competitive market. British Gas are on the phone to them. They're trying to sell British Gas to them. Are you okay with them taking that call? No. So why are you okay with your why are you okay with candidates answering their phones?
Yeah.
Why do you expect candidates to answer their phones? Oh, this candidate's shit because they won't answer the phone. They're working. You don't let your staff answer the phone. Or tell your candidate to call in sick or something because they need to go to that interview. How would you feel if one of your staff did that? Called in sick because they needed to go somewhere and you wouldn't let them have the time off. So why do we not have this understanding of humans exist and behave in a particular manner? But for some reason, the minute you walk into the business world, specifically recruitment, we have this thing of like, no, none of that applies.
Yeah.
I don't care that I've never been sold to on the phone before. You get on the phone and sell.
Yeah.
I don't care that that's not how I make buying decisions. You get on the phone and sell. I don't care that, all these things are going on in my life and it's impacting me, but you get on the phone and sell. Where's this from?
It's a really interesting conversation, isn't it? Because there's clear as day double standards that are being adopted.
The answer to the answer to most businesses' problems are within that mindset, right?
Yeah.
I always used to hate that, the whole leave your problems at the door. Why? They're my problems.
Yeah.
I wake up with them. I go to bed with them. Why do I have to leave them at the door?
Yeah.
I enter a religious establishment, a church, a synagogue, a mosque, a gurdwara, whatever, and I'm not told to leave my problems at the door. They're welcomed in.
Yeah.
I go to my friend's house.
Yeah.
They don't say, listen, leave that fucking shit at the door, mate. You're coming here to have drinks and play cards.
Yeah.
They welcome it in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anywhere I go, I'm allowed to take my problems with me. But at work, you leave it at the door.
You leave it at the door.
What is
that?
that?
It's fascinating,
Nonsense.
Isn't it? Yeah, it really is interesting. And intuitively, I feel that the reason for that is because a lot of people, despite the mental health movement that we are witnessing right now, still have this fear of weakness when it comes to admitting some form of difficulty, like vulnerability is what we're talking about here, right? And leaders are guilty as charged when it comes to this.
Yes.
They don't want to appear like there are cracks in their facade or their armor, so they will package away all of their problems and not go near them because they're this stoic, often masculine figure.
And that's fine, because parents do the same. My children will never see me cry because I don't want them to think something's wrong with daddy, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't then say to them, no, what are you crying in front of me for? Do you know what I mean? So I understand if as a leader you don't want to show chinks in your armor and you don't want to show vulnerability to your team. I understand that. But why are you not allowing your staff to come in with problems and questions and vulnerabilities? Why are they being told to leave it at the door? Because you wouldn't do that to your child, right? You want your children to come to you with the problems that they're having and the problems they're facing.
Yeah.
But for some reason, again, that humanity is left at the door in business.
Yeah.
We operate in a very, very specific way as humans and in our life. But for some reason, work-life balance and, work and life are two different things.
Yeah.
You spend most of your fucking day there. Most people have close-knit friendships and work with people who they consider to be close friends. So there's already a blurred line crossover there, right?
Yeah.
So what is this professional environment that we're trying to maintain? Like this facade of professionalism?
Yeah.
Because what's professional about that?
Yeah.
Sitting there and sitting down and talking to your members of staff and asking them, what motivates you? Money. Right, okay, that's cute. What actually motivates you?
Yeah.
I really want to buy my mum a car.
Yeah.
Ever since I was little, I've wanted to buy my mum a car and put a bow on it.
There we go.
Right. Okay, so how do we make that happen?
Yeah.
What type of car is it that you want to buy?
Yeah.
Oh, nothing special, just a Ford Fiesta. Okay, about $5,000. Yeah. Okay. You can earn that $5,000 in just commission alone in a quarter.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. So let's look at your job flow. All these jobs that you've got here, let's be realistic. You're not going to fill them all. Right? Yeah. Your close rate is about this. If we can get your close rate up to this, you'll be able to earn this much in commission, which means you can get that Fiesta and the bow. Oh yeah. Okay, I can visualize my dream now. I can visualize what I'm motivated by. Okay. Now, I'm saying we've got to get your close rate up from 1 in 4 to 2 in 4. That's going to take some work though, because you do miss 3 opportunities every time. So let's actually look at why your close rate's only 1 in 4. You're not getting exclusivity. Are you asking for it? No. Okay, well, let's do some work on asking for exclusivity. Are you having a backup candidate? No. Okay, well, we need more backup candidates. Look how many candidates you've got in interview process here, right? If you were just to add another 3 candidates into each of these jobs, you would improve your chance of closing the job by this much, which take it back to here. Remember, 3 months from now, we want to buy Mum a Fiesta. Well, that's what we want, remember? Yeah. Cool. So let's make that happen. Now I need you to go back and I need you to get an extra 3 candidates for each one of those jobs. I want you to get on the phone to each one of those clients and ask, have you been happy with my work on this vacancy? Blah, blah, blah. Yes, we have. Perfect. Can I ask a favour? The next time you recruit, would you be willing to give me exclusive? Oh, I can't ask that. But if you don't ask, you're never going to get it. What's the worst they'll say is, actually, look, I don't like to work exclusive. And that's okay. But ask first. Okay, yeah, I'll do that.
But within that, we can go back to the 3-pillar model that I was talking about. We're back in the area of mastery there. If you're having that kind of conversation with someone, helping them understand the purpose, buy the car, and they're going, oh, I don't know if I've got the confidence for that. The leader's role is to understand how they can help facilitate that growth.
What can I do to help you?
Yeah. How can I help you
Where
get there?
do you need the autonomy?
Yeah.
You're going to make the phone calls. I'm not going to do them for you.
Yeah.
There's the autonomy. and I've said you need to find 3 more people.
Yeah.
But I'll sit with you.
Yeah.
When you make the first 2 phone calls to your clients and say, "Can I have exclusivity next time?"
Mm-hmm.
I'll sit with you.
Mm.
I'm not going to plug in. I'm not listen. I'm not. All I'm going to do there is just sat there for. I'll hold your hand essentially. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But remember.
That's where we're going. Yeah.
We want the car.
Within that autonomy piece, a mindset that I absolutely love, and I take clients and organizations through this all the time, is the scientist mindset. So in order to create autonomy in a structured way that gives you as the leader the assurance that the parameters are set up in such a way that you can just leave that individual to get on with the task, is to set a hypothesis like a scientist would. So if we think about what a scientist is doing on a day-to-day basis, they're turning up to work, they're running experiments by way of a hypothesis. So a hypothesis is very clear, it's very structured. There's a start point, there's an end point, and there are clear metrics that will be adhered to within that process. So if we go back to this example of buying mum a car, the hypothesis might be 3-month lifespan. Within that 3-month lifespan, I'm going to make this many calls, I'm going to find this many candidates, I'm going to do it by doing X, Y, and Z. And at the end of that hypothesis, we will either prove it or disprove it. If we proved it, great, pat on the back, well done, you absolutely smashed it. We're really, really proud of you for achieving that. If you disprove the hypothesis, that doesn't mean that you're worthless. It doesn't mean that you're a failure. Yeah. It just means that there's more support that is needed, and we need to understand what's wrong there.
Rework out and figure out.
That's right. But it creates a pocket of autonomy as opposed to just saying, right, get on with it.
Yeah.
And the consultant is there going, oh, I don't know how I'm supposed to do this. You need to create a container for that autonomy to thrive within. And I think the hypothesis idea is a really nice way of doing that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Agree. That was a real life example, by the way.
Yeah.
That's what I did with one of my guys.
Yeah, cool.
And it worked.
Yeah, nice.
Treat, right? But that was the point. It was kind of, we can keep, carrot and stick. We can keep beating the stick, but it's not working.
Yeah. That's the extrinsic motivation, right? Extrinsic, I'm motivated by money or something outside of myself, and it's fleeting. That the reward is the carrot, the stick is you're not doing well enough. That will work for some people who, as we spoke about towards the beginning of the conversation, is the typical high performers, but the vast majority of people are driven by something more intrinsic. That's the mastery, the purpose, and the autonomy. That is what we really need to be focusing on here, which is what we've just been kind of unpacking over the last 30 minutes or so.
This has been interesting, full on.
Yeah.
I think incredibly useful for a lot of the people that listen into the show, especially the kind of questions and stuff that I get, and the times I've been pulled to a side and been like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So no, I want to thank you for kind of going into that. Here's your chance to plug yourself, mate. How do people get in touch with you? What's your diary looking like for next year? How much capacity have you got to take on new business?
Yeah. So there are essentially 3 products which I sell: workshops, coaching, and consulting. So workshops would be delivered at usually a consultant level. So talking about the kind of topics that we've been speaking about today, predominantly motivation, because it's quite practical, it's quite tangible, it's something that people can get behind and understand. So I can come into businesses, I can deliver workshops, and ultimately help people tap into what we're talking about here, that intrinsic form of motivation that allows them to achieve what you as a leader want them to achieve without you getting frustrated, wondering why are they not moving forward in the way that they said they would in an interview. So you can deliver workshops. In a coaching context, in January, I'm going to be launching a new one-to-one coaching program for leaders. So this will be a 3-phase program helping people create transformation within themselves as an individual, first of all, because as we've been speaking about today, when there is this micromanagement, which is a subjective term, which is present within organizations, we need to understand where that comes from, what the originating source is within that individual. So the first phase would be looking at resolving whatever is holding that individual leader back. Second phase will be about creating alignment within the organization between the leader, the organization, and the employees of that organization. And then the third phase of that program will all be around what I call cultural agility. So it's no secret that the recruitment landscape is constantly changing. And I'd go so far as to say that in life, we have two absolute guarantees only. One is death and the other is change. And a lot of people really struggle to manage change. So the third phase is all about helping people understand what change actually is, how to approach it in a more fluid and accepting manner. And then the third is consulting. So this is a much more strategic overview, typically looking at things like cultural dynamics within an organization. I would work with leadership teams to understand how we can create more cohesion within the organization. So we'd likely be looking at mission, meaning, how that can be communicated to an individual level so people can understand what their role is within that organization.
Yeah.
So to summarize, they're the three components: workshops at team level, one-to-one coaching at leadership level, and then consulting at cultural and organizational level as well. All of this information can be found on my website, which is www.thedanmartin.com. If you go to the culture systems page there, culture systems are what I plug into organizations to give what is a tangible kind of idea for people to get and hold on to. It's all explained on the website there. And my email is on there as well. And if you wanted to just send an inquiry to have a chat and figure out what the best route would be for you, then feel free to reach out over the website.
Amazing, mate. Thank you very much, man.
My pleasure, brother. Really appreciate you having me on.
This has been fun. Guys, thank you. That's it for another episode of RecTalk. We shall see you again next week. New episodes drop every Wednesday. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, send in questions, doing all the things that you guys do to keep us at the top. We'll see you again next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh,
Boom.
That was good.
Really enjoyed that, mate.
That was
a
right?
really stimulating conversation.
We'll flip these off quickly so they don't burn out.
If we get a little picture before we go, I'll do a post about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was really cool.